everyone, this is your host Brian, and welcome to episode 20. Today's topic, the purple Teletubby, Tinky Winky. His actor died drunk, freezing to death on the streets of London at the age of 52. Find out about all that and more on this week's episode of the Pause Button Podcast.
When you asked us if it would be okay, I didn't think it was going to be that dark.
That's what it was, man.
All right.
What happened to his Teletubbies, Bunny?
I don't know. They just recast him, right?
Actually, I don't know. I thought it would just be reruns the whole time. They make new episodes of Teletubbies?
What if it's still going? What if it's got like a record of like longest running kids show or something like that?
I wouldn't know.
Tubby Custard has no expiration date, man.
I know that the baby, the baby that's the son, is an adult now.
I didn't want to know that.
Because I've seen an image of them.
Wow.
I feel old. Feel very old.
Yeah.
So speaking of the sun, Pat, who are you?
I'm the Sunshine Blue Elf.
Ah, okay. Very, very fitting for today's episode. We're going to get into that in a second. Who else is here with me?
I'm Joe. I'm the Meatball Man.
Ooh. I like that one.
I decided I think I'm going to go with like kind of a thing like Pat does, but I'm going to make it like all Italian food themes.
So, Devontae, you know what that means, right? They think they're better than us.
Change it up on us.
I think they're all witty, coming up with different little names every time.
Really, it's just that Joey wants to be like me, and I can't blame him. His name is literally listed as Pat Bentley right now.
Oh, that's true. I forgot I did that.
Devontae, who are you?
I'm the retro guy.
That is true. Tom the Tech Guy is listening in and helping us get everything set tech-wise, and I'm Brian. Mr. Pause Button, I don't know, maybe I'll come up with something like you guys are doing. I do like that, but I don't know if I'm witty enough for it.
You have a whole week.
Well, I mean,
a week to prepare. Usually.
What is a week in quarantine time? Time has no meaning anymore, man. Sometimes it zooms forward, other times it's like, wait, it's only been 3 hours? Like, what's going on?
It zooms forward?
Hey.
Whoa,
We're on a
Zoom. Advertisement. Support us.
Speaking of like quarantine and all that, what are you guys doing to pass time? What are you doing at home? You just like napping all day and wait to sleep at night, or what?
Playing video games, a lot of Animal Crossing. I recently, yesterday, bought Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Nice.
That is, I hear, an enormous game that gets it right. A lot of people were worried, is it going to be episodic? And it kind of is, but it doesn't matter. Like, looks like a very good game.
Yeah, still a very good game.
Yeah.
Are you playing it too, Devontae?
Yeah, I bought it on Thursday.
Nice.
They released it super early, so.
Yeah. I'm only like an hour in so far.
Now, Devontae, and Pat and I were talking. Is every person in that game beautiful as hell?
Of course. It's Final Fantasy. That's just how the game works.
I did play 15, and they all looked very much like the prettiest boy band on the planet.
Everybody's pretty except for the one like fat dude. There's one.
Yeah.
There's just only one.
Kind of Barrett too.
Yeah.
With his big ass gun, but he's like too badass looking to be pretty.
Can you imagine being the only ugly person on the planet, man?
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's how it feels like for me sometimes.
Oh no. Anyway, welcome to the Pause Button Podcast. Every other week, your four favorite hosts, Pat, Joey, Devontae, and me, along with Tom the Tech Guy, we'll take a topic, delve into its past, discuss its present, and debate its dazzling future. And we'll do our darndest to entertain you along the way. You can expect surprising facts, funny jokes, deeply depressing monologues, and of course, unrelated witty banter. So whether you're watching a movie or playing a video game, sit down, shut up, and open your ears. It's time to hit pause. And speaking of hitting pause, you might be questioning why our yellow logo is back. I don't think we mentioned that last week, but the purple logo is for video game episodes, and the yellow logo is for movie episodes. So that's kind of what's going on there.
Yeah.
So it's a movie episode. We are talking about Onward today with the Blue Elves, as Pat mentioned. Or, as the Zoom chat says, clunk punk. What the hell does that mean?
Clunk bunk?
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
I don't know. I just wrote it down.
It's such a silly sounding word. I love it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So I figured we could start off talking about reviews from, actually important critics and all of that for this movie and how
I think I'm
ticket
pretty
sales
important.
did.
Are you
Yeah.
referring to the fact that you think some critics aren't important? Because I think that kind of
Wow.
singles out our audience a little bit. We probably have a critic-heavy
I
audience.
was just saying that the critics had a better opinion than we do because we're just a measly little podcast. But you know what? We have just as much merit as them. That's a good point, Joey.
Yeah.
I want to be included on RottenTomatoes.com. That's our new campaign. We're going to get that to happen.
Cool.
But the places that are already on RottenTomatoes.com they kind of all said the same thing, that this movie is good, but because it's Pixar, it should be much better. Boston Globe called it the most generic Pixar film. Washington Post says Onward isn't even close to top shelf Pixar, but judging it in its own merits, it's an often funny, genuine, moving story that takes enough twists along the way that the quest becomes a suspenseful journey. And Richard Roper at the Chicago Sun-Times said it's the worst Pixar film.
Wow.
Yeah, he
Damn.
said this is the 22nd one, and I would rank it 22nd. I'm like, Cars 2 and 3 above this? Really?
Hey, don't forget Planes.
Oh.
He thinks
Everyone
Planes is
forgot
better than
Planes.
this one.
Wow. That's actually really... Wow. That kind of makes
That's
me mad. I
cutting
don't know
deep.
why. Like,
I
feel
don't know
like
if I
shouldn't have
agree
that
with that.
visceral reaction, but...
And then as far as the box office goes, it's kind of hard to tell given that theaters kind of closed. It did spend about 3 weeks in theaters, and it came out in like early March, so I had some time there. It made $39 million its opening weekend, and since the theaters closed, it's made $103 million like worldwide.
Wow, it's still actually like a pretty large amount.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
Pixar movie by Disney. Like, it's going to at least make its money back and do pretty well. You right?
Yeah, but still, I mean, like, after theaters close, if it made that much, that means people were, like, buying it or renting it or whatever online, and I don't know, I waited for it to come out on Disney Plus because I knew, but I guess if you don't have Disney Plus, it's still cheaper than getting Disney Plus, so...
So I forgot about that. So they did have a period of time where you couldn't watch it on Disney Plus. You had to, like, rent it, right? Or buy it?
Yeah, maybe, like,
Okay.
a couple weeks or so. I don't know exactly how long.
I do know it was online and in theaters concurrently for a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, movie theaters across the world closed at different times. It's not like we all woke up one Monday morning and went, every theater is shut now. They kind of piecemealed it as we went along. So So let's go into our thoughts. What did you guys think of this?
I thought this was a really meh movie.
Oh.
I think the concept was great, but they didn't do enough with the concept. I thought the story was, admittedly, maybe this is because it's a children's movie and I'm an adult, but I feel like, once again, this is a Pixar movie. It really hit a lot of really basic story beats that were very predictable. I thought the main character was utterly unlikable. I liked the rest of the supporting cast. I liked the mom, I liked the Manticore, and I liked the older brother. But the main character, I did not care for, and it felt like he just constantly latched out at his brother, who was trying to help him. And granted, he learns his lesson by the end, but it felt like I had to watch 80% of that movie with him being shitty.
Clunk Bunk brings up a really good point. I forgot to mention, we are going to be spoiling this movie, but let's see if we can get everybody's opinions at least without too much spoilers, and then we'll kind of delve into it.
Oh.
But you didn't really give away too much. I mean, you said you didn't really like it, and like everything you said, I feel like could be assumed about a children's movie. Like, what, the main character learned his lesson? Spoilers, like that's how movies work. Sorry, it doesn't end with him dying sadly. Like it's a G movie.
I did forget to mention though, and on a positive note, that the world that they created was interesting. And I thought it was a very well animated movie. I did also, though, on a negative side, think that the main characters' designs weren't great.
Okay. Very well thought out, and
Like the way that the main characters looked, you mean by that?
Yeah, I felt like they had a very basic, they just were blue people with pointy ears because they're elves, and this is Pixar. I've seen how crazy they can get with designs. They made freaking Monsters Inc. for God's sakes, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they could have done
that's true.
more with weird fantasy characters or creatures.
I mean, to be fair, they did make Walking Pants a character, so there's some bit of like creativity in there.
Yeah.
Joey, what did you think?
I liked it personally, but I mean, after listening to Pat's opinion, I mean, I can agree with some stuff for sure. Like, I would agree probably that the main character is probably the one that you end up liking the least, I feel like, which is probably the opposite of what they're really going for.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe they could have been a little bit more creative with some stuff, but I did overall like the movie. I watched it with my sister, and she didn't like it at all.
Wow.
I think partially that was because she's not into the whole like fantasy thing. So I think maybe that carried a little bit of weight for her on it. But
We do have
yeah.
to make a disclaimer that everybody here has played D&D, so I feel like that kind of puts some not rose-tinted glasses, but like we can enjoy it more because of that.
Yeah, I
There's
think
definitely a
that
lot of
probably
references.
helps.
I think there may have been a reference to Critical Role at one point.
Ooh, that's interesting. We'll talk about that in a second, but first, Devante, what did you think?
No, I actually thought it was a pretty good movie.
Okay.
I didn't have too many problems with it, other than like being able to. Since they said it was a full fantasy world, they didn't really show anything besides like pixies. Like,
Yeah, there were
throughout the whole
touches here and
thing.
there.
Yeah, and they were like, it's a whole fantasy world. I know it's kind of like more modernized fantasy world.
Yeah,
I hear
I
you.
was looking it up before, and on Wikipedia it classifies the movie as a computer animated urban fantasy film, which is like, I don't know if I've ever really heard that category before.
That might be the most boring way to describe this movie. Like,
I feel like it's accurate.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
urban-
true, but
Pretty
Urban
accurate.
fantasy definitely is accurate.
I can agree with all you guys. It kind of feels like it's just a quick, just you're in and then you're out. It's just gonna tell the story, and they're gonna use the charm to kind of make you kind of forget that they're not fleshing out this world as much as you might want, and that some of the stuff is a little bit generic. But the fantasy stuff is handled really well. I did look up that they worked with Wizards of the Coast actually to make sure that they got all those fantasy elements right.
Huh.
Yeah, they had a thank you in the credits for them there.
They did have stuff like the gelatinous cube. So that's
I
really
thought
cool.
that was really funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into those spoilers a little bit and talk about what we liked and didn't like about this film.
I really liked the monster designs. The gelatinous cube being this massive thing was really cool, and the dragon at the end was really well done in the way that it was like made up of parts of their school, and you could literally hear like the class bell ringing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
And
really unique. And
that was fun.
It's a great humorous moment when the face clamps down and he's got like the play dragon face, from the wall. But he's still terrifying at the same time. I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also I really liked the Manticore's character.
Mm-hmm.
Thought she was fun, and I liked that they played with the like stinger that she had, and they used like all of the mythology of what a manticore is like in how she was, and that but she also ended up unfortunately resulting in me looking at that and going like, man, I really wish we had more of that with like the main characters' designs.
She was very unique. I was a little confused about how like she basically went on like a coked up trip and just burned down her restaurant and then just became normal. I was like,
Yeah,
how
I
did
feel
she
like they could
flip?
have
Like, did
stopped
they just
that fire like quick.
Well, I just don't know how she like just flipped a switch. She went like full manic and just burned the place down and like lost her mind. And then the police showed up and she's like, "Oh, I'm just back to being mild-mannered Manicore." And it's just like, how did you lose control? That's not good. You're a dangerous person. Like,
She just had a little fit. It's fine.
yeah.
I enjoyed the aspect of them like going out and kind of bringing magic back into the world with like getting the pixies to fly again, or sort of having the centaur cop kind of realize that he needs to like get out and run more because centaurs are meant to be doing that, not driving around. Uh, but I feel like they didn't quite use that concept enough. Like the idea of the centaur being, or the centaur needing to run, or the pixies learning to fly again, should have had some sort of impact, I think, on the final moments of the film, and it just didn't.
Okay, I can hear you there. I did like that they didn't, because of how small scale this is, they didn't go for the full, like, and the world is all magical again. Everybody uses it's just like, no,
It didn't need to be, but I think for
Yeah.
the
He's saying,
creatures
like,
that they
maybe-
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. Like, they had the fairies fly, and the only thing that happened with that is, like, the mom hit a fairy with her car, you know? So they tied it in a little bit, but
Weren't they
not so
pixies?
much. Oh,
Yeah,
Pixie, yeah,
pixies.
sorry.
You
God.
dumb bitch.
2 different tiny flying creatures. Come on.
I'm not a true fantasy fan.
Gosh.
Speaking of the fantasy stuff, they had a lot of good references in there. So I looked it up on, I think it was, what website is that? IMDb, and their trivia and stuff and all that. So obviously they had like the Burgershire and Second Breakfast reference. They had pops called like Cloak and Cola or Mountain Doom and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Especially, I didn't notice this, but on the dashboard of Guinevere 2, the Skyrim logo is there.
Nice.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So I feel like that was a really good reference in there. And the Pizza Planet truck is called Pizza Realm. So, ooh.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
And the Infinity Gauntlet's in there twice.
Oh, really?
Is it?
Yeah, did you guys catch either one of them?
No.
So the easy one to catch, I didn't catch it either, but it's a little bit easier to see, is when they go to the Manicore's Tavern, the claw game is called Gauntlet, and the hand that picks stuff up is the golden gauntlet there.
Nice.
And also, it's apparently on Barley's vest. I think you have to like zoom in or like pause a scene to get really close to look up to it, but apparently it's on there as well. Not very fantasy-esque, but yeah, I don't care. It's fine. It's Marvel.
Yep, you'll just eat it up.
So, let's talk about the music of this movie. What do you guys think of the music?
I honestly can't say that I remember a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
to
did.
be
I
honest.
thought it was thoroughly like unremarkable.
Okay. It kind of was the opposite for me. That's interesting that it was like unremarkable for you guys. And now if you asked me to like sing a song from it, I couldn't do that right now. But I did notice as I was watching it that the music was either like the worst moment with music for me was at the end when they're facing the dragon and the Manicore crashes and the mom picks up the sword and she goes running to attack it. And they have this like musical cue that just like here she goes. And then it just like ends like 5 to 10 seconds later. And I was like, it just felt so awkward. It felt like a random scene that should have just been like handled differently. Had the music been the same, like the whole theme changed. And then it just never came back. It was a weird kind of ham-fisted thing in there. Did you guys catch that? Like, did you feel weird during that?
No,
scene at all?
I'll be honest. The music just never stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Like there were,
It's just like background music.
yeah, it was fine. Like it never distracted,
Did its job.
but it just there's never a moment where I was like, all right, this is a banger.
Yeah.
That being said, I did really enjoy the metal music.
Oh, yeah. I could agree with
Barley's
that, I guess.
like stuff like
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Brutal Legend, the video game from like 2007?
Yeah,
It was like a rock and roll metal fantasy world.
Jack Black.
almost.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Lemmy was in it, Rob Halford, Ozzy, and it was all like there were spiders that had guitar string webs, and it was as metal as possible. And this kind of reminded me of that. He was very, just that mix of just like, it's not full on like he's not painting his face black and white and like killing cats in the night, but he's not full on like he's not rock and roll. He's like that weird mix of like rock and roll and metal together, and I really enjoyed that music.
yeah. I've said this numerous times that I read on the internet that the observation that 10 years ago Barley definitely would have been voiced by Jack Black, and I thought that was very accurate.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Speaking of the voice actors, how did you think Chris Pratt and Tom Holland did?
I thought Chris Pratt did a great job. I don't know if I felt like Tom Holland just didn't have enough to do, but I didn't really enjoy him in his role.
I kind of could agree with that. I
Yeah.
really liked Chris Pratt's job. I felt like it reminded me almost of him playing Andy, which I really liked a lot. And like since he's done movies like Jurassic World and stuff like that, I feel like
Chris
those
Pratt's a
movies
great.
didn't really show us much of his.
He's
like what
been a
he's good
great
at.
voice actor.
Yeah.
Like Lego Movie in
Yeah.
Oh
this.
yeah, I forgot he
Yeah.
did that.
I really want to keep seeing him in voice roles because I really think he pulls it off well, and
Yeah.
especially with this, Barley's a very different type of character than the main character of the Lego Movie. But I
Yeah.
think he does it like just as well.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I don't like
Yeah.
him as much in stuff like Jurassic World. Like, I feel like it doesn't allow him to be as expressive as, like, that's what he's good at being, is, like, very expressive and out there.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
agree.
it's not to the extent of like Robert Downey Jr. when he's Iron Man or Sherlock Holmes and he's just playing himself. Like you can tell that like Chris Pratt is somewhat like that, but there's always that spin on it. Like Andy from Parks and Rec is pretty dumb, and Chris Pratt's not that dumb in real life. Or this character has a strong appreciation of fantasy elements and kind of has like that older brother screw up, quote unquote, kind of vibe. And that's probably not what Chris Pratt is like, but he can play that character up well enough.
Yeah.
And it's not distracting that he's Chris Pratt. You don't listen to it the whole time and go, man, that's Star-Lord. You're just like, no, that's Barley. Like, he just really fits the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to walk away from this film and not like Barley the most. Like,
Yeah. It was really weird to me that, like, pretty much from the start, when they were all kind of looking down at him at the beginning of the movie, because it seemed like all he was doing was trying to preserve historical landmarks, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, why would you care about our history? And I'm like, there's people like that in real life, and no one looks at them and goes like, wow, you suck. And granted, I think you were telling me yesterday, Brian, that the movie kind of implies he's probably like jobless and didn't go to college, so maybe he is like a bit of a wash up.
but the biggest thing is it's implied. They don't
Yeah.
have like a scene of like his mom like, oh, you should have sent off your application, or, you know, it would be great if you could help out with the bills. It's just kind of like, no, you should just infer that he's a screw up.
Well, yeah, and
And-
I was curious, like, how old is he? I don't think they really went into that.
Based on the pictures we can see of him, it looked like he was probably 3 or 4 years older than his younger brother.
I got
So that probably put him at 19 or 20.
Okay.
Yeah, and it going back to kind of like his idea of like preserving history and all that, I got a weird sense that like he's Bart and Lisa Simpson at the same time, where he's doing these things that are like his protest where he was trying to like save that fountain, that seemed like a Lisa kind of thing, and then like the cops are all upset at him and he's always getting in trouble with them, and I was like, that's kind of like the screw up Bart thing, and he's both characters at the same time. It was it's a weird dynamic for a character for the rest of the world to just kind of be like, whatever, come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like that, how they tied the fountain back in, though. That
Oh
was
yeah, that
nice.
worked well. It
Yeah.
showed that he was kind of correct to be doing that, because what would have happened is ultimately it would have gotten bulldozed and the curse would have been released anyway.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think unfortunately that's kind of what led me to not like the main character much. Is it was always very clear that Barley had the best interests of both the world and the main character at heart, and was very clearly trying to be encouraging and helpful to him, but was just consistently consistently people rolled their eyes at him or berated him or insulted him, and then he always would bounce back, and then you had the moments where they were kind of talking things out and you think like, okay, good, they're getting over this, but then they'd just fall right back into shitting on him.
Hmm.
It is, yeah. It's just a weird dynamic. That's like, I guess that's how that'll work then. So going back to the story a little bit, I did enjoy the little cues that they had to come back in later moments. I feel like that was so different things like. They had the big emotional moment where Barley's like, I didn't get to say goodbye, and that kind of defined his character of not being afraid and all that. And then, you know, it resolves in the end and he gets to. Or he has the line about how every splinter in the stick is magical. And then when, is Ian, right? Ian's the main
Yeah.
character. Yeah, when he turns a splinter into the staff again because he knows the enlarge spell, like, that's a nice touch. When the thing fell out of his hands into the water, I was like, I legitimately don't know how they're going to handle this. And then he pulled out the thing. I was like, oh, that's a really cool, like, way to handle it.
Yeah.
And, like, he used every spell he learned against the dragon, and like obviously the big emotional moment where he has his checklist, and then he's like, "Oh wait, I did all of that."
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I keep getting distracted by Nick. Our buddy set up this Zoom chat for us because he owns Zoom, so we won't get kicked out. And he's upset about the spoilers now, even though we clearly said in the beginning of this episode we're going to talk about spoilers.
Yeah, I feel like I gave a pretty clear indication for all the listeners there. Does this count as a live stream for a fan? Are we doing like a live stream episode?
I don't think so.
No, stop.
I don't think Nick qualifies as a fan.
Yeah. Especially after this, I could say he thoroughly hates us.
All right, so what did you guys think of the story? Like, obviously, there's some. I feel like the first part was very cheesy. When he comes down and his mom's kissing, was like, "Stop, mom," and I was like, "This is."
Yeah, I think the actual like layout of the story was well done. Like I could empathize with their driving plot of, oh God, we have to go find this crystal, and we don't have enough time to think this out first because otherwise we're going to lose out on our chance to say goodbye to our dad. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. The idea of them going from place to place like a quest, it works well for their fantasy elements.
Yeah, following the ravens and all that.
Ultimately, the ending of him being able to reconnect with his father, or while Ian holds things off and doesn't get the chance, he gets that brief moment of getting to see him from a distance. Mm-hmm. I thought that worked really well. That was the one thing that made me, I think, kind of start to come back around on Ian at the very end. Maybe a little too late into the movie, but the idea that he was willing to take that sacrifice because for him, Barley was the one who was there for him. He was the father figure, so he's willing to make that sacrifice and just to get Barley the chance to get closure with their dad.
Yeah.
So I like that all.
That was a nice touch at the end where he was walled in, and like I did not expect that. I feel like at the beginning of this movie, it's very predictable, and you're like, I get where this is going. He's the very shy kid that's not going to invite kids to his birthday party. I get it. And the quest, while it's not the most surprising thing, that's when they start to draw you in with the characters. And then I feel like from the moment where they show up back at the school again, coming out of the sewer, that's where I had no idea where they were going with it. And that's when things picked up, and when the dragon shows up and all of that.
Yeah. I did like that part with them going through the dungeon, though, and, like, riding on the giant Cheeto. Like, I thought that was enjoyable content.
The moment they sucked me in with this movie was when he sent Guinevere off to crash into the cliff. I was laughing pretty hard at that. When he puts it was something like Valhalla or something like that, the track on, and it's all, like, epic and sad, and, like, that look in his eyes, and he puts the brick down on the pedal and everything. Yeah. Like, it's so ridiculous, but it's great.
Unfortunately, that did also lead me to get even angrier at Ian when Ian clashed with him after that, and I was like, "He just sacrificed the thing he loves the most in the world."
Yeah,
for you,
he wanted to show Dad. He's like, "I need to show Dad my car. It's my prized possession." And then he blows it up, and he's like, "Man, you don't know what you're doing. You're just screw up." It's like he's doing everything he possibly can here.
He had to sacrifice the car because you screwed up first, man.
Yeah.
I actually don't have that big of an issue with Ian as everyone else does.
Oh yeah.
I kind of understand him because like he's a kid that didn't grow up with the dad, and his brother did. So like he's probably just jealous of his brother the whole time.
Yeah, no,
I think that's what the whole movie is. And he's a teenager too, so like.
Yeah, but I felt like they didn't do it like well enough for him to be likable because I've dealt with those types of characters before, but it just didn't. He didn't do it for me.
Oh, I mean, I probably can. I just relate to it because I can understand where he's coming from.
I get you.
Fair.
So like that's why it didn't bother me. I was like, yeah, that's totally how a kid would act when he like one sibling has a dad and the other one doesn't. Like that's fair. I think they perfected that exactly because like he's gonna just take out his anger on not being able to see his dad on his brother, even if his brother's correct, So he just has somebody he can take it out on the whole time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, coming in again with a very different opinion. Last week, Animal Crossing sucks. This week, talking about how you like the main character. I love it. I mean, before I talked with Pat, I did. It's not that I didn't. I didn't have a problem with Ian, I guess, is how I would put it. When I first watched the movie, I was like, you know, I can relate to him a little bit, and I enjoy his character well enough. And then the points that Pat brought up, I was like, okay, he does kind of do that. He's got issues with his brother, and they're just not as founded as you would think they are. But when you put that perspective on it, I do kind of see. I see what you're going for there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like he was just angry because it didn't work originally, just because they like stopped the spell. Like he thought getting help stopped the spell, which caused his dad to only come in halfway. So I guess he was just like, it's his fault that we had to do this in the first place. Compared to like, if he just didn't do anything, he'll be here, which wouldn't be the case because he needed his help to like stay on his feet.
Yeah.
I did like the whole way of them telling the story about them. It was almost like kind of Frozen, where Frozen the whole time you're just like, oh, this is like a love story, and then at the end you're like, oh no, it's about the sisters. Like this one, it's just like it's gonna be about Ian connecting with his dad, and then at the end you're like, oh no, it's the two brothers together. That's a nice, surprising twist to the story. I did enjoy that to it.
Oh, I will also, as far as animation goes in the movie, I thought it was very beautifully animated.
Absolutely, the purples really pop out, and just it's a very purple movie, man.
That's what your go-to was for that. Not like how amazing their hair looks, or like the image of the muscles of the wings moving on creatures. No, man, those vibrant purples.
I'm all about the colors, man. The colors are just something else. There's a very clear color palette to this movie. You know, like Breaking Bad. Every time they go to Mexico, it's orange as hell for some reason. Like this movie has like that purpley tint to it.
I loved when at the end, you could see like the rock dragons, like the boulders were like rubbing against each other and dust was coming off. And, like grinding and stuff like that. That was really appealing to me. I actually went back and rewatched the scene and was like cutting to just the dragon stuff because the dragon stuff was really cool. And then at the same thing when Ian is watching Barley and the dad say their goodbyes, and Ian's kind of trying to see if he could get by and maybe get to be part of it too. Like he's like pushing some of the rocks and you can see some of them falling and dust coming off. Like that, it's really good attention to detail.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the number one thing you can't knock Pixar for, whether you like the characters or the story or the music or whatever. The details are going to be there, 100%.
Yeah, this movie had some damn good rocks.
That's what it's all about, man. The color purple and the rocks. That's
The play again? Or...
yeah. It ties in. There's a character that's shared between Oprah Winfrey's play and Onward. So, what do you think? Like the big theme of this movie is? What was their goal when they made it? Because the way I view movies is I'm gonna rate it or view my opinion on it in terms of did this do what it wanted to?
I'd probably say like don't take, I guess, family for granted.
Yeah, I would say that's a big message. Learn to find something you're confident in or something that will help boost your confidence. Him sort of finding a hobby in, magic and learning something he's good at helped him boost his confidence in other stuff. I definitely think that that's secondary to the main family lesson there, though. Like Devontae said, like it's all about the relationship between the brothers, and the mother as well. She's a big part of this movie, and I think we've barely touched on her so far. But it's definitely don't take family for granted because they're there for you even if you don't always notice.
Yeah. And I think maybe like one kind of secondary theme too. I mean, this could be said for maybe a lot of like Pixar movies. Is that like, or maybe a lot of movies in general for kids, is like even though the world seems like very ordinary, there's like little things that you could still call like magic out there. Or like you could say that like the way the mom cares for her like sons, or like the way that the older son Barley cares about like Ian, maybe that could be even considered like magic, I guess, like in a very ordinary world.
No.
Okay.
No, no, I didn't think of that. When Devontae was talking about the family thing, and Pat was kind of talking about like trying to find your confidence, all that. Both of that stuff came across. I didn't think of the family stuff as like the magic stuff, but that I could see that.
It's just like one kind of twist on it, because I feel like they started off the movie saying like, oh, the world used to be magic and now it's like ordinary, and then at the end of the movie they're like, oh, it's kind of magic again, like after we went through all this, So,
and we're closer as a family. Absolutely. I saw all that stuff. The like taking risks is important, and trusting, and like obviously a family's the biggest thing. I also feel like there was a bit of an argument for like like don't take family for granted, but also like do what you can with what you have.
Yeah, I guess that kind of ties into like what Pat said about like finding something to boost your confidence, almost, or like
No, but this is original. I came up with this.
Kind of piggybacking.
yeah, that's true.
No, it's fine.
There was something that you mentioned that I wanted to talk about.
Whoa, well, I'm glad.
Yeah, it disappeared.
It's the point of this whole thing, Brian.
Yeah, it had to do with the point of this whole thing.
And I do really wish there had been like a lot more weird creatures around, because they did stuff like the dragon and the gelatinous cube so well, and even like their version of the manticore as like a person. It would have been so cool to see stuff like a beholder from D&D, or like, I don't know, just golems or other getting real weird with it, like a basilisk. Just tons of strange stuff.
So I remembered I got two things. So speaking of the magic world and all that, you mentioned how like they use the manticore stinger and everything. I did not expect that.
Yeah,
that was a really nice touch where the what are those things called? The pawn shop lady was like upselling them, and she just assaulted her, and they stole it and left.
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
That was pretty great.
That was really
no consequences.
Yeah,
no consequences for that.
Well, I mean, already like this lady still burned down an establishment and endangered, dozens of people.
Also, the possibility that she's just so powerful, no one can stop her. Because we're told she was
she's
a
like
great
Homelander. Like, what?
I mean, she was like the whole like legend of the Manticore.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe now that she's like back to being a warrior, everyone's kind of like, maybe we just leave her be.
That brings up a potential issue I had with this movie. How long has it been since magic disappeared? Like, their dad's an accountant, but he has this stick, and the Manticore lady used to be magical, but now she's not. But everyone's kind of forgotten magic. Like, how long ago did magic disappear?
I imagine like a few centuries or something.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was kind of wondering too, especially like when they first started talking to the Manticore, because they were talking about like, what was it? The thing that like changed her opinion was like the quote above the painting on the wall.
Yeah.
Whatever. And they were like, "Oh, who said that?" And they were like, "You did say that. Like, you were the one who said that." And that made me like kind of wonder, well, how long has she been sending people on quests? Like, how long ago did that change? Like, does she live for an extraordinarily long time? Like,
I assume she lives a very long time.
Yeah,
I mean, like the D&D part of me was just like, oh, her life expectancy is a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
That being said, like most people don't have that D&D background of like elves live for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
I imagined centuries.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured too. I just felt like if there was, like, I didn't know if that would be tied to the magic part at all. Like if in a weird way life expectancy would like go down. I don't know.
That being said, the intro of how they went from magic to just electricity is just easier, and they just like that aspect. That's a really nice aspect.
That was funny, yeah, and it works well with like in the movie. There being very specific requirements for every spell, and you need to have the talent for magic in the first place. Mm-hmm. So, like, of course, they would just move on to technology, and people would go like, "Yeah, I don't need to bother. They have light bulbs."
Yeah. It does have like that little bit of a touch of like what you needed was in you the whole time. Like the pixies all discover that they can fly. The mom's boyfriend decides he can start running again, and the magic was inside Ian the whole time. He just had to be confident enough.
Yeah. Can I just say I loved that the pixies, when they were riding a motorcycle, they needed multiple of them to drive it.
Yeah.
That was a nice touch.
6 of them like hanging off the side. That was really funny.
Pressing pedals and all that.
Yeah.
That chase scene was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, like especially when the fake top half of the dad like goes out the driver's side window and he's like accidentally like shaking his fist or whatever at them.
I viewed it as him waving, of just like, yeah, hey, and they're like, oh, dude, we're gonna fuck.
It was really great.
Okay, so
you knew from the beginning of them showing up where that was going, and it was still funny.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I got a couple questions about this movie. Would this movie have been given such positive reviews if it wasn't Pixar? If this was just some random ass studio that came out with this movie, is the fact that it's being compared to other Pixar films making it go down because it's not as original?
Yeah, I think it definitely would have done better if it was like DreamWorks.
Or is it kind of like, well, this movie isn't exactly great, but it is Pixar, so it goes up a little bit?
No, it's the opposite. I think it gets harsher because it's Pixar.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
That's fair. It has definitely been compared to other original movies that they've put out.
And I think it is fair to have that kind of expectation of, like, you're Pixar, we know how good you can be. But it is unfortunate in a way that it can't stand on its own merits.
I don't understand the gold standard of Pixar being viewed as a thing anymore. Like, yes, they have Toy Story, they have Incredibles, they have Finding Nemo, they've done these, like, near-perfect movies. But that's gone. Like, they're not perfect anymore. They made Cars. They made The Good Dinosaur. They made Brave. They made Monsters University. Like, all
Brave
these films...
is loved. What are you talking about?
Is it?
Don't talk shit about Brave.
I didn't watch Brave.
Yeah, I liked Brave.
That was okay.
Okay. I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score list. But it's just kind of like they haven't had like a perfect run of movies. That time is passed on. It's not like these are trash movies. They've never made a trash movie, but always expecting perfection from them, I feel
Planes.
like is
Yeah.
okay.
Or just like any other Cars movie, I feel like.
Yeah, but like I just feel like the age of expecting perfection from them can change. Like they're human, and it's been 30 years basically since Toy Story. Let's at least allow them to make movies that aren't perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that for the most part. I still think like when I saw like this trailer come up, or when I see Pixar movie trailers in general come up, I'm like, oh, I'd probably like to see that. Like I'm probably gonna want to see that at some point. But there are like certain ones like Planes or like the additional car ones where it's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to see that because I think it doesn't look that great. So, I don't know.
That leads me to my next question. Did the pandemic hurt or help this movie? Kind of like we talked about with Animal Crossing last week. Like, is the fact that it's on Disney Plus going to get more people to view this? Did any of you plan on seeing it in theaters before this?
I wanted to see it in theaters before this. I hadn't gotten around to it for the couple weeks that it was out. And I am happy that it went to Disney Plus because then I essentially got to watch it for free since I already had Disney Plus. So
yeah, I think may have helped it in a way, just because people with the move to the streaming service means that people were looking for something to watch and it was available.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a possibility too of like even people who don't necessarily have Disney Plus, like I shared my password with Devante so he could watch this movie, right? So like more people are gonna probably get their eyes on it, and the fact that like there's not much to do right now, and the fact that people are just probably gonna watch it more since it's there and it's free.
Absolutely. I mean, I personally think I was hoping to see it in theaters, but this time of year is kind of busy for my job, and I didn't expect to see it in theaters. It was just kind of one of those, like, I wish I saw it. That was what I thought it was going to be. I am happy that I saw it, but I don't know in terms of, like, how Disney views the views that it'll get online versus ticket sales. Like, do you think we're going to get a sequel because of how many people are watching it online, or do you think...
I don't know that this movie is made to get a sequel. Maybe if it did, it could be another movie in this world, but I felt like the story of Ian and Barley had ended by the end.
Yeah.
That being said, Cars got 3 movies, guys, plus a spin-off, so...
Yeah, you're right.
I feel like this is more of a closed book than Cars, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
This is so I formatted this poorly. We should have had this question before the spoilers. But is this movie worth seeing? If I have Disney Plus, should I watch it?
Yeah,
I think so.
Give it a shot. I think there's a story to be told there, and I think even if you didn't end up caring for the story, the visuals in the world are worth watching by themselves.
Yeah, and I think obviously, I feel like some parts we came at it a little bit hard, and I think maybe that kind of goes back to Pat's point of like, well, this is a Pixar movie, we know what they can do, and I think that's the only reason that we came at it so hard. But like
a disappointed father, I expected better.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, that does not mean by any means that it's a bad movie. I still liked it, like I said.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, I thoroughly enjoyed this film, and I think it's, if you had to like give it like a grade, I would give it like a B, maybe a B plus. The humor is good. I love Barley. Because of how much I love fantasy, that being featured in a film in and of itself is great to see, and not just full on like, it's like knights and shit, but like it's actually talking about gelatinous cubes and these spells that are harder than other ones, and it's a nice love letter to that kind of fantasy D&D kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie does have, I mean, most audiences would say to watch this movie. There's a 95% score from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. So most people who see this movie do enjoy it. But I figured we could talk about Pixar films in general in terms of the critics' rating and how they would rate all 22 Pixar films. So we're going to have a Guess the Top segment. And what do you guys think are among the top-rated Pixar films?
I'm going to guess Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 are really far up there, with 1 and 2 maybe having 100%.
Yeah. This has been Guess the Tops. So
I would say so, and I would say Finding Nemo's up there, too.
Finding Nemo and Up.
All right, so you guys have the top 3 already. Toy Story 1 and 2 have 100%. Finding Nemo has 99%.
Okay.
But there's a movie that's in 4th place that's above Toy Story 3, which had a 98%.
I don't know. Is it Coco?
Coco's close. Coco had a 97%. I mean, this is Pixar we're talking about. Like the top 8 to 10 have 90-something%.
Yeah.
So it's fairly recent.
Frozen?
Frozen's not Pixar.
Oh, right.
Ratatouille?
Ratatouille is also up there, 96%. I'll give you guys another shot. It's in the last, let's say, 6 to 7 years. All right, it is Inside Out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did any of you guys see that one?
I don't know.
I
have not.
saw part of it.
Oh.
It's with the emotions that live inside the little girl.
Yeah, I hear it hits really hard, and I really want to watch that movie.
I know it's Amy Poehler in it.
Yeah,
I know Bill Hader's in it. And Louis Black. Let me see if you said Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Amy Poehler is the kid. Oh no, sorry, she's Joy.
No. I was gonna say she's like the main.
Oh, dude,
emotion.
Phil from The Office is sadness.
Oh, cool.
And Louis Black is anger. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I still have to see that movie. I have heard it's really good though.
Where do you guys think Onward sits in terms of Pixar films? Among the 22, is Richard Roper right that is dead last?
No.
No.
No, he's
Far
not.
from it.
Do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, it's right in the middle. It's at an 88%. That's 16th out of 22. I don't know if I fully agree with that because it's below A Bug's Life, and I feel like this movie's better than A Bug's Life. But the next movie above that is Finding Dory. I didn't see Finding Dory. And Incredibles 2 are above that. I don't know if this movie's better than those, but according to Rotten Tomatoes, it is not.
Huh. I didn't see Finding Dory. I enjoyed Incredibles 2, but I could see this being considered better.
Okay.
I liked Finding Dory, but I feel like I don't know, maybe Finding Dory gets a little bit of a boost just because it's the Finding Nemo sequel. I think that this movie and Finding Dory are probably about par as to how I felt about them.
Okay. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we talked about Onward. That's kind of a movie that came out during this. That's a kind of our past segment. In terms of the present and the future, we've got, this movie was heavily affected by the pandemic and everything. So a lot of movies have been affected, obviously, and most of them have been delayed. This film was one of the last ones to squeak out right before everything kind of got shut off. And, No Time to Die, the James Bond film, was the first one that was supposed to come out like early April, and it got moved all the way to November. And then everything else started to fall like dominoes after that. Mulan got moved to July. Wonder Woman was moved from June to August. Fast and Furious was moved a whole year. The ninth one's coming out next year in April. So, and then, of course, the MCU got completely shifted and everything moved to the next time slot after that. So, given all of that, and some films delayed indefinitely, like Quiet Place 2 and In the Heights, which is like a musical film by Lin-Manuel Miranda, they're just shelved. There's no set date at all. They just went, this is going to come out whenever it can. And some films are not delayed yet. Like the next Pixar film, Soul, is coming out supposedly on June 19th. Tenet, that really cool looking Christopher Nolan one, coming out in mid to late July. What do you guys think is going on here? Do you think it's better for them to announce these dates or to just kind of shelve things indefinitely?
I think it would be a little better for them to not put out a date right now because we just don't know with the current climate how things could end up changing.
Mm-hmm.
You get people's hopes up and their excitement starts to build, and then they go, time to wait a year.
Let alone the financial impact of, like, you start putting out trailers and posters of, like, hey, well, maybe not posters, but trailers of like, hey, this is our ad campaign. We're going to spend so many $1 million saying the new date is in August. And then August rolls around and you're like, well, okay, we actually need to move it. So you got to move it again. And then there's confusion about when it's coming out. But then again, you also don't forget about it. It's also in your mind of like something to look forward to. A Quiet Place fans are just like, well, I guess I'll just forget about that for now. I don't know in terms of what might be better. Because some films, obviously, like Fast and Furious delayed itself a whole year. I feel like that's a safe bet. But not every film can just wait a whole year for, their income.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I'd rather have some sort of certainty that it is going to come out than delayed indefinitely, because usually stuff when it's delayed indefinitely, it's like, all right, well, that might not even happen now,
Yeah, there is that concern. And it's nice to have the carrot on the end of the stick. I was surprised by how some of these were moved. Uncharted was supposed to come out in March of 2021. That got moved to October of 2021. So the effects of this could last like a couple years. Like there's probably some films that were supposed to get announced next week that they're just going to hide and release when they feel comfortable with it,
Mm-hmm.
So we could see it. I mean, I don't know how much we'll know as just people who aren't in the industry, but we could see the effects of this lasting 3, 4, 5 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That being said, there are some positive things. Yeah. If you go on Instagram, or Twitter, a lot of directors are doing kind of like watch-alongs. James Gunn did one where you put on Guardians 1 at the same time as him, and he tweets out stuff that you wouldn't know about the movie, kind of interesting facts. Taika Waititi did it with Thor Ragnarok on Instagram Live, and Tessa Thompson and Mark Ruffalo kind of showed up during it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's nice to see that they're doing something during this.
Yeah.
And,
and if I remember correctly, he actually made like some hints about plot stuff for Thor 4.
Yes, people were asking about Christopher Nolan, and of course he started to talk like where he was like cutting out and pretending that like no one could hear him saying who Christopher Nolan is playing.
Christopher Nolan's not playing anybody. He's
sorry, not Christian Bale. I get the two of them goofed up. They both did Batman, and they start with C, so they're just the director, the actor. It's sorry. But he also had a joke script that was laid there, and it said Tony shows up, and he's alive again, and Thanos is back too, and he also claimed the Immigrant Song cost them $65 million, and knowing Led Zeppelin, I don't know if that's true or not.
Wouldn't entirely
I can believe it.
Surprise me, yeah.
It was fully worth it, man. Fully worth it for sure.
Used it twice.
Also, if you like Korg, supposedly they're going back into Korg's backstory and like the culture of his people in the fourth one. So
I loved Korg.
It's gonna be great. Meek's also a woman. I was surprised to learn that. He had some designs for Meek. I don't know if they were joking or not, but they were there. The last thing I wanted to talk about is are movie theaters doomed? The S&P analyst said that AMC is expected to be closed at least until the midpoint of the summer, and they reported a $5 billion deficit at the end of 2019, with losses of like 149 million last year. So, I mean, there's also rumors of like how it's going to affect Marcus and all the other theaters.
I hope it's not. I have always enjoyed the movie theater experience. Unfortunately, I think stuff like their prices tends to kind of affect them. I don't know that it was necessarily a good idea to have like essentially, at least in our lifetimes, like doubled ticket prices.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like double ticket prices make food and all the snacks go drastically high, but then for at least AMC and what's the other one? Marcus, $5 Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Like it's such a weird dichotomy of like you can get in for really cheap, but then your popcorn's going to cost you 3 times the price of the ticket, so you're going to end up paying like $20 anyway.
Yeah, I think the food thing can really hurt it, to be honest. That's a good point to bring up. And I agree with Pat that I really hope it doesn't affect it because, I mean, it's going to suck if like new movies come out and you have to watch them on your TV all the time. I think it's really nice to go see it on a big screen.
We didn't talk about that, but I think that did affect my impact with Onward. I think Onward would have hit harder if I was watching it in the dark with a much bigger screen and louder sound, and I was more kind of isolated. Like now I was sitting there on my phone at times, and I had my laptop in front of me, and I was just at home comfortable. I couldn't connect with it as well.
This sounds like it's more of a personal problem.
Oh, that's how things usually go. I personally have a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think movie theater is going to be in a tough spot, especially private ones like Marcus.
Will you guys pay like $20 for a bag of popcorn when this is over to keep them afloat? Because I will.
Not.
No.
I will. Like I want theaters to be there, even if it like shrinks down and there's not as many, and I got to drive farther. I need the movie theater, man. I love those experiences. All you got to think about is Endgame opening night, and that experience is worth as much money as they want.
I think that most people are going to pick up on the trend that you can just post it online for $20 and people will still buy it.
Yes, I do think that we'll see more movies coming out like that, especially since Netflix was already pushing that forward with some of their Oscar movies from last year. But I just hope that we don't go full, like, and that's done and we're flipping sides. I hope it's at least a nice balance of some movies that don't deserve the cinematic release, almost like the old, like, straight-to-DVD movies. But I still need my cinematic experiences, man.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't pay the $20 for the popcorn after this, though. Like, it doesn't make sense because, like, I feel like if anything, they should take this time to reevaluate their business. Just because, I mean, a lot of people are going to be jobless after this too. So
yeah, that's a big concern. But everything's not gloom and doom. Pat has a sunshine shout out for us.
Oh, so my sunshine shout out today is for Barrett's massive gun hand in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
How big is
shout
this
out
hand,
to that
Pat?
thing. It is massive. He is massive. Also, shout out to his neck size.
Is he a thick boy?
He is a thick man, and he intimidates me, and I want him to be my older brother.
Gotta watch out for those older brothers, Pat. Sometimes they're just screw-ups, you know?
Okay. Fair.
All right. So, any other lasting thoughts before we close it out?
No.
Okay. So, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. The things are below. Let us know what you thought. If you have any topic ideas, we are always listening and love to hear what you guys think. Our listen goals are down there, too. We're still aiming for that 50 listens on an episode. We want to get drunk, that's for sure. And share it with somebody if you enjoyed this episode. But overall, thank you so much for listening. We always appreciate that you guys do this, and we hope you enjoy. Tom, what's our next topic going to be?
Our next topic for next week will be discussing my lack of creativity when creating D&D names. My first character's name was Throwbick, constantly referred to as Throwdick, and my second character's name was Aratinus, also called Aridanus. So we'll discuss my stupidity next week.
I don't know, that sounds kind of creative if you can make fun of it like that. All right, well, we'll hear about more of that next episode, but until then, Devante.
Now we're going to hit pause.